Hello everyone, my name is Hamad Shmiri and today I'm with Rashid and we're having a wonderful guest today, a person who switched his career from an engineer to a humanities professor. We're having Dr. Abdulla Galadari. Thank you for coming and we're glad to have you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey guys, if it is your first time watching this channel, we are basically a group that aims to interview people of different careers to help high school students in choosing their career path. Hello, Dr. Abdullah, we are glad to have you.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank
Okay, to start, Doctor, can you please introduce yourself? Like, can you tell the viewers who is Dr. Abdullah Galadari briefly?
Well, very briefly, I am insane. So actually, even if you go to my university's website to see my profile, that's exactly what it will tell you. It says that I'm an insane person. So in brief, that's what I am. I teach at Khalifa University. And I am at the Humanities and Social Sciences department. And previously, I was with the engineering college.
Okay.
thank you. Dr. Abdullah, can you talk about your high school life and what was your favorite subject and so basically how was it?
Well, high school life was quite interesting. I mean, I enjoyed it at the time, but I trust most high school students will eventually find college life is even nicer and more lively, perhaps. But high school life was actually very nice. My favorite subject at the time was perhaps maybe physics, I would say. Perhaps physics was very, very enjoyable for me. I really enjoyed physics.
Okay, after after reading about your CV and your journey, we've discovered that you studied abroad in the US. You went to University of Colorado, and I think too many students out there, their dream, like myself, I want to study abroad. Like, what was your experience? Like, do you recommend that students go abroad to the UK, US, Australia, New Zealand?
Honestly speaking, I would definitely recommend it, even if you were, for example, in a country with so many great universities as we have here in the United Arab Emirates. So we have so many wonderful and excellent universities. But I would still highly recommend people to actually study abroad because it's not just the academia, it's not just this kind of knowledge that you are learning, but it is the whole journey of being alone in a different country, in a place that you're not used to. So that kind of education is more important, at least how I've seen it, than the actual academic knowledge. Because the academic knowledge, you can get it from anywhere. Actually, nowadays with the pandemic, you can even get it online. So that's not the most important thing. I think it's really the life education that you would receive from studying abroad.
Okay, so you recommend it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Doctor. I actually agree with you. It's very interesting to study outside. Dr. Abdullah, can you give us an overview of what you studied in university and what were your majors and minors?
Sure. Basically, at the University of Colorado, I started uh, doing engineering. So I started with civil engineering. I took a bachelor's of science in civil engineering, and I took another bachelor of science in applied math. And I took minors in astrophysics, computer science, and uh, and basically the kind of mathematics in which the only numbers that you would see is the numbers on the page, and that's basically called an interesting type of math. So it's not applied, but it is more of theoretical, and usually we call it pure mathematics. And then I took master's degrees. I took a master's of science in civil engineering and a master of engineering in geographic information systems, or GIS. And then I took a PhD in civil engineering. And basically, after I completed all of those degrees from the University of Colorado, I found myself, of course, I was working. I came back to Dubai. I worked in many different places. I worked at the Dubai municipality. I worked at Dubai Maritime City, which was later merged into Nakhil. And at the same time, I was also teaching at the higher colleges of technology during the evenings. But still, after completing my PhD degree, because I was a student all my life, right? I mean, ever since I ever remember, I was a student, and then suddenly I felt, oh, so now I'm done, and therefore I returned back to school, and this time I went to do humanities, and I took a PhD in Arabic and Islamic studies from the University of Aberdeen in Scotland. So that's basically my journey.
MashaAllah.
So, mashallah, Doctor, you studied a lot of majors. You've been a student your whole life, I think. So, what inspired you to like do all of this?
Basically, I truly believe that the fuel that moves us as human beings is curiosity. So, and we can see that with like little children. They're always asking these curious questions. Why is this way? And what is that? And why is this? And what is that? And unfortunately, the environment that surrounds them makes them basically forget this kind of curiosity. It kills this curiosity. Basically, they will end up with answers. It's like this just because it is. And so it just kills their curiosity. And that's very, very unfortunate, because I truly believe curiosity is what drives humanity, and it's what drives us to become also very basically thinking outside the box, very creative. So what really inspired me is just this kind of curiosity that I've had, always had, and that's what always is driving me.
Interesting, Dr. Abdullah. And can I know why did you choose civil engineering and not any other engineering discipline like chemical engineering or mechanical engineering?
Well, honestly speaking, when in my first semester at the University of Colorado, I was actually planning to do electrical engineering because I really enjoyed electricity, and especially when I took circuits in physics in high school, I really enjoyed it actually. But basically, I was told, specifically by my father, that there is perhaps better opportunities in civil engineering in terms of jobs than it is in electrical engineering. So electrical engineering was much more focused, and civil engineering had so many disciplines, and therefore allowed many more opportunities. And that is why I basically moved to civil engineering, and that's how it went.
Okay, so for people watching us today, civil engineering has, I think, too many applications. So, what can you do as a civil engineer? So, in the work, like in your as you're working, okay, what can you do?
Well, civil engineering is very broad, and there are so many disciplines within civil engineering. So you could do many different things. You could basically be working on structural engineering, which means you're designing the structures of buildings and houses. You could also be doing like transportation engineering. So you'll be designing roads, bridges, for example. You could also be doing geotechnical engineering, which is basically all about soils, about foundations, about building dams, for example. You could also be doing water resources or environmental engineering, which is also all part of civil engineering. You could also be designing the waterworks, so water pipelines, for example. So a lot of the infrastructure. So much of civil engineering is structures and infrastructure, and that is why it's very broad, and it does allow you truly to basically go into any kind of subfield that you enjoy most.
Interesting, Dr. Abdullah. And Dr. Abdullah, I want to know, do you regret studying engineering as you changed your career or switched your career to a humanities career?
Absolutely not whatsoever. I actually enjoyed engineering, and I still enjoy engineering. I mean, I still do have some students in engineering, and sometimes I'm asked to give some guest lectures in engineering, and I do enjoy it so much, and I enjoyed it all through the journey. So absolutely no regrets whatsoever. I enjoyed what I was doing. I am enjoying what I am doing, and I do hope that I will enjoy what I will be doing in the future. Who knows what I will be doing? I don't know.
Inshallah.
What was it like discovering your passion so I think so late in your career or that late in your career? Because you switched to a humanities, I think, uh, from an engineer to a humanities. People, I think, will be curious about can they switch their career that late in their career?
Yes, absolutely. They definitely can switch careers. And to be very honest, when I was at the University of Colorado, perhaps I was the youngest in my class. And because the campus that I was at, the vast majority of the students who were basically studying, they were much older than I was at the time. They were almost at least also maybe double my age at that time. Many of them were working, and then they decided, let's go back to school, study engineering, and then get a better job. And that is something that is very prominent really in the West. So in the West, it's very normal actually to have people who would perhaps work on something and then they go back to school, or maybe they would have studied something and then they return back to school and study something different. So it's very normal in other parts of the world, and that's one of the problems I think that we face in this part of the world, in this region, is that most people believe that the decision you make when you're like 16 years old, 17 years old, the decision of what exactly to study is going to haunt you for the rest of your life. I really think that's not the right attitude. Actually, yes, you can make your decision at when you're 16 years old, 17 years old, but that doesn't mean that it will have to haunt you for the rest of your life. You can make then a different decision maybe when you're 30 years old, and another one maybe when you're 50 years old, and so forth. Because anyways, I mean, we are human beings, and we're always changing. We're evolving, and so as we're evolving and as we are facing new challenges and things like that, perhaps our passions will also change, and there's no problem. Why should I make a decision that I made when I was 16 years old or 17 years old uh, stick for the rest of my life, even if it no longer becomes a passion later in my years? Even, for example, even if it could perhaps be a better pay. Of course, engineering is a much better pay than anything else, right? Especially the humanities. But it doesn't matter because you're not doing it for the money. I mean, what's the use if you're getting richer, but you're always waking up in the morning very sad and very depressed and you don't want to go to work? It's better to actually jump out of bed and really wanting to go to work, because you don't feel that you're working. You're feeling that you're going to enjoy something. And so if your enjoyment changes later in life, just change with it. So that's, I think, how I would put it.
That's inspiring.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dr. Abdullah. I also think that we have to follow what we enjoy, and we must enjoy what we do, or else we will not be happy in life. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And by the way, please don't call me Dr. Abdullah. Just please call me Abdullah.
inshallah, inshallah. Abdullah, can you give small advice to the young generations and high school students on how to choose their career path?
Well, basically, look at what your passions are. What are your hobbies? So look into what you really enjoy. And it's not something that what your parents want you to do. It is not something what your friends are going to study, and just because you want to study with them, you will choose the same field that they're studying because you want to be with them. But truly be honest with yourself. See what you're really very passionate about. What are your hobbies? And based on that, study something that you will definitely enjoy. And it doesn't have to be, by the way, I mean, it doesn't really have to be it's like STEM fields, like the STEM fields, like the science, technology, engineering, and math fields. It could be perhaps any other kind of field. It could be even music. It could be perhaps even maybe some people or some students who would like to learn how to dance and things like that. The performing arts is in itself a wonderful field to study as well. So I would definitely look into what you really enjoy, what you really want, what you're passionate about, and just go for it. Because at the end of the day, at 16 years old or at 17 years old, you've got a big lifetime ahead of you. And it's going to be your life. It's not someone else's life. It's not your parents' lives. It's not your friends' lives. It's your own life. And so choose something that you will enjoy in your own life. So that's how I would actually put it for those who are thinking of what field to study.
Yes, that was really inspiring. I loved the interview with this interview. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope stay tuned for another video. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Doctor.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for having me. Much
Thank you.
appreciated.